And what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast. We are back with a very special, not so deep dive that may actually end up being one of the deepest dives of the lot because we are here with the SDFC Bros, Vince and Carlos, to preview MLS's newest club, San Diego FC. Gents, how are you doing?
Good, good. How about you? Good to be on here, honestly.
Yeah, man. Good. Really excited to be here. Super happy. And like I said, we're every time there's a new expansion team, we get really, really excited about it. And what I'm excited for is my co-host who's not here with me today. Unfortunately, he's still working, but we usually end up previewing these sorts of teams on our own and kind of just grasping at straws and in the dark because we don't have the inside scoop on it. We have what transfer market tells us and what Twitter tells us. So we're really excited to have people with the inside knowledge about this club and all the things that are going on the inside. But we're going to talk all about 2025. But before we do that, we should do what we always do and talk about Scarf of the Week because new team means new scarves. So why don't you guys tell me what you guys have to show off today?
Yeah, so we got the Chrome and Azul scarf, and it has a little lowrider on the side as well. Because San Diego culture is definitely, I think
Yeah.
Carlos can say the most of this just because, he has, I think closer ties to the city, being super close to the border and everything. So you can just go off, my friend.
Yeah, so I think San Diego is definitely trying to get into like the Hispanic culture and throw some things out. But even to his point, San Diego is very diverse in every aspect. So I'm sure there's going to be like Italian themed scarves and everything like that too. Just we have a big Filipino community as well. So I think like we're just going to be seeing a lot of that, and I'm really glad to be part of a city that's going to be a team that's going to be representing like the culture of the city as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of the coolest things that we were just talking about, I was talking about it with our Nashville guest, was that each club has, because I mean, yes, we're in the same country, but every location is so unique. Nashville's Music City, right? All these ties to some really, really historical music, right? New York City, of course, of being its own thing. Orlando versus LA versus all these different areas. You have so much different in terms of culture and connections that soccer scarves are a really good way to show that off, I believe. And I am a collector. I am trying to collect all 30 teams. I think I'm on 27. I've got three more to go. And that is because I was able to pick this up right before we recorded, and it is a San Diego
Oh,
FC
all right.
Vamos.
double sided. We got the chrome on one side, the azul on the other, with the
Nice.
orange stripes in the middle. I think it is a very nice design. I just wish it was the thicker version instead of the kind of like
Yeah,
thin stuff. I don't like
Yeah,
the material, but the design is great, so I'm happy with it.
yeah.
perfect.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Glad to see you have repping
Oh
it.
yeah, oh yeah. So like I said, they're only. I'm a Red Bull supporter, been since 2010, and I am a diehard. So there are only two scarves I will not wear, and that's New York City and DC. Those are in bags, and when I have to talk, I show them like this in the bag, and I drop them over there, and I don't touch them. Everything else I'm cool with.
Perfect.
So, listen, so there, usually this is the part where we start talking about like, oh, how'd you guys do in 2024? But as we know, there was no 2024. So I'd like to talk a little bit about this
Exactly.
idea of, I'm going to use the term disdain because I think there's been a lot of negative, disdainful sort of commentary around the introduction of San Diego FC in terms of, the way the club was created, down to the crest, the colors, and everything else. There just seems to be like this negative pitch toward it. How do you think you guys are, as fans, are handling it as this new season approaches? Are you taking it kind of like a, yeah, everybody hates us and we don't care sort of thing? Like, what's the vibe over there?
Yeah, I mean, being the new kids on the block is definitely something that's new for us San Diegans, just because I feel like San Diego has a lot of historic sports teams, obviously the Padres, then the Chargers as well. So I think being the new kids on the block is kind of something new for us. But I think the perception of that is kind of just like, bring it on. I think the whole kind of emphasis on San Diego FC from what Coach Varas has said and even the players is, we're here to compete. We want to be competitive and we want to make a big splash in MLS. So all kind of the hate and the chirps, kind of already going down in San Diego from the man in up in LA to the guys over in San Jose. And then, kind of just recently from Austin FC because they, outbid us for Brandon Vasquez and everything like that. So already kind of the chirps and, kind of the banter already for San Diego is already underway. And you know what? We're here for it. We want to be one of those teams where, y'all come down here to San Diego and we're hard to beat. And that's, I'm hoping, the emphasis kind of going forward for San Diego FC in terms of like competitiveness and whatnot.
Right. And I think, like he said, we just kind of want to take the hate and show off with it, and hopefully our supporters can go ahead and, be loud and proud. So like, I think we were saying the other day, like they can show up to the stadium and, it's a real competition, a real feeling like the other teams are scared to show up to San Diego, and like just really show what the culture of San Diego is and how proud we are of our sports teams is what I think is going to set us apart from anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that is really important to hit on in year one. I think you see some clubs that come in and they have this big, oh, it's new, it's fun, and then it kind of dies out. And I think about New York City a lot because obviously as a Red Bull supporter and you see it, it's, they're at Yankee Stadium and Yankee Stadium is packed all the way to the third deck and you can't get anybody, you can't get tickets anywhere because everybody's got them all bought out. They're now 10 years in, give or take. And it's like, okay, it's starting to die out a little bit, and the connection's not there, and they're upset they don't have their stadium yet, and you know. But then you look at places like Atlanta, who are still going 70K strong every other week, right? So to get that and to hit on that properly is going to be really, really important to that front office. So I'm interested to see how that gets on because. I said California it's a big state, but it's crowded in terms of MLS teams, right? So to be able to hop in there and really stake your own is going to be very interesting to see.
Right. And, just to touch on that, I think SDFC has kind of like took an initiative right off the gun, and something that is not really well known, but they decided to do like a Chrome Ball tour before they start everything. And they were going to each city in the San Diego County, and doing like a whole tour, like where you could like do scrimmage games, meet the coach, all these things, like meet players. And like the coach was coming out and being part of the culture. So a lot of people who were probably hesitant or didn't know, obviously their little kid plays soccer, let's throw them in the scrimmage, and then they'd see the atmosphere and everything, and they're now gun-ho, ready to go and really starting to pick up pace, and it's just going to be exciting, and hopefully we can get some big wins to just keep capitalizing on that momentum that we have. And like I said, San Diego's really big fan of their teams. Like you can see with the Padres, we go all out, even though we lose all the time, but hopefully it's the same with soccer, and I truly believe we can and get that going again.
Man, that's super exciting. You mentioned that the coach is going around and being a part of the culture, and that's wonderful. But I do kind of want to touch on him from a sporting side of it, right? Because that's the focus, right? That's the head of the ship and the guy who steers it all the way around and decides really your fate, right? So Mikey Varas in head coach year one. You've also got connections to the right to dream. Touch on that a little bit too as we go on. But your thoughts on the Mikey Varas appointment and kind of how they've built this front office and the emphasis on kind of, it seems like at least from the outside, it seems like emphasis on youth development, emphasis on the right to dream, and the youth of Mikey Varas, who really has been really good with the youth ranks, hasn't really had the pro game yet, but has been great in the youth ranks and seems to be kind of taking that pathway.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, just kind of first thoughts of Mikey Varas when he did get announced as the coach was very negative. I think that is something that was very adamant as a fan. And I'm always a person where it's like, I think, in a kind of a football kind of perspective, it's like you should give your coach a chance, right? I think every coach deserves that chance to prove themselves. And I think with a new brand like San Diego FC and a new team and a new culture, it's going to be very hard to kind of start that culture and to kind of start that kind of whole vibe and kind of, I guess, winning mentality, I guess you can say, because like I said kind of earlier when we were, talking how Mikey Varas wants to have that culture of winning and to be competitive from match day one. And I mean, what more to do that than playing LA Galaxy away from home? So it's like in our interview that we were talking with Mikey Varas, and you can see that on our Instagram, he was saying that, we're going to go to LA and, we're not just going to, lay over and they're going to walk all over us. We want to make a statement and we want to be competitive. So I think with Mikey Varas at the helm, of course, I have my question marks, of course, because he hasn't really had that much experience at the top level. I think his probably best, I guess, highest ranking job you can say is when he was coaching the U.S. men's national team for 2 games or something like that, or 1 game. After Greg Berhalter got sacked or dismissed, I think he drew 2 games or lost 1 or something like that. And then everyone looks at those results and then they're like, oh, Mikey Varas doesn't know what he's doing, yada, yada, this isn't this. But it's like, the truth of the matter is, I think what San Diego FC has with the right to dream, with not only the youth development side of things, where you can kind of pull from these different pools, from Ghana right to dream, from Denmark right to dream, and all other places in the world. And we're going to have such a great hub in San Diego, pulling from talent pools like Mexico as well. So we're pulling a lot of these great initiatives in terms of a youth kind of development football sense. And we got one of, I think, the most talented, youth prospects in Saidi, or excuse me, Saidi, excuse me. He was coming from the Philadelphia Union Academy, and 16 years old, striker. He has a lot of brilliant qualities that I think the right to dream kind of style can go to. And I just wanted to touch upon the right to dream style of play, and it's just very link up ability, creativity, playing out the press, keeping possession style of play. So just a very, I think, demanding style of play. So as long as you kind of have the players on the same page to buy into that system, I think that's something that I think is mandatory on day one, because you need everybody on the same page to kind of make this style of play work like a well-oiled machine. So I think that's going to be something that's going to be really difficult to implement from kind of match day one and so on. And I think it's going to take a while for this San Diego FC team to really, be cohesive in, all aspects of the pitch, offensively and defensively.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think one of the biggest things was, he's brand new. He doesn't know, nobody really knows anything about him and everything like that. But what I feel like we're creating here is a project, not just to come in. Obviously, we want to come in and dominate right off the bat. But I think we really are starting a project. And I think having a fresh face like Mikey Varas is easier to start that project and, get the ball rolling. If you would have had like a really strong coach that has he's going to want to come in and put his own tactic and his 2 cents. And I think San Diego C really wanted to create their own, like I said, environment, and start off with a brand new coach who can lead them in those tactics with the right to dream and go forward from that. And then knowing the next coach to come in will also follow in those footsteps as well.
Yeah. So, and I'll tell you from the outside point of view, what you were talking about with him being underwhelming, was exactly the feeling that we got. Was just, really? Like, this is your first? But exactly. You look at it, right, and then you start thinking about, okay, right to dream, right? Right to dream is all about player development and getting them up to a certain level. And Mikey Varas, I mean, Sacramento Republic, I was just looking at his thing there, Sacramento Republic, and then FC Dallas, in head of the FC Dallas. I mean, how many USMNT players can you look at on any given day? And it's like, Dallas Academy. Like, right. It's just you could take a starting 11 of Dallas kids and start them on the men's national team, and they're likely going to do half decent in CONCACAF, right? Like, then he goes in and he takes over the youth national teams. And I believe, if I remember correctly, he was able to qualify them for the Olympics for the first time in 20x something years, right? Like, quite clearly he can get the best out of a youth project or a development project. But, as a Red Bull supporter who is also supported or surrounded by Philadelphia fans and things like that, we have seen how that goes out. You get there, right? You get to be just good enough, and you always fall short every single time. So as we go in there, it's very interesting to then think about like this roster build, right? It feels like a balance between this development that you mentioned, Saidi, who looks super promising, and a couple of other young players, Thomas Angel as well in that similar position, but then you combine it with some high-level DPs and some good MLS experience, and it's like, okay, this is now interesting, because now you're asking Mikey Varas to do not just the player development side of it. Now you're giving him players who are kind of like in this, yeah, we can perform right now. We know what our level is. Can he reach that level? So, I look at this roster, and we're looking at, quite frankly, a deadly front line, a very creative, strong, defensively through the midfield, MLS experience at the back. Like, how are you guys feeling with this roster build as we go on into the season?
Yeah. Well, like I was saying, I'm excited for it a little bit because it's brand new. I think it's going to be a different style, and like you said, we have a lot of youth, so I'm really excited to see that kind of build up and see what it can be. But I think a lot we're going to lack on is defensive. And like you said, we're very attacking based, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just, trying to buy into it, but I really do want to buy into the vision. And it feels like if it works out, it's going to work out with these ideas of like, younger players and everything. And I really think Mikey Varas is a good coach for that. And I think the players that we have are going to be moldable, and that's the most important part. And I feel like it's in a position where the roster that we have, these players are willing and able to, like, okay, we messed up this time. I'm hungry. I'm ready to do better the next game. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And, Mikey Varas having that experience coaching kind of youth level, kind of that sort of thing, where Right to Dream is, having a huge emphasis on is that youth development. So having guys like Saidi kind of being the face of that development, we're going to have Saidi for a long time, and, he could be a bomber. So I'm really excited where his development can look, but kind of as an overall kind of look at the squad, I think it's a mix of a lot of experience, right? You have Paddy McNair, who has a lot of experience in the Premier League as well, playing at Man United, Nottingham Forest, West Brom, and then you have obviously Chucky Lozano, who needs no introduction, a serial winner everywhere you go, a historic Scudetto with Napoli, something that hasn't been done since the Maradona days. And then someone you're familiar with, Andres Reyes, who, in my opinion, is a great ball playing center back. Someone who I think kind of, from an Italian perspective reminds me of is Bonucci. Bonucci was a sensational ball playing center back. And, if you can kind of, get these guys, to fit in the puzzle that you want them to be in, then this roster can be pretty good. And, looking at the midfield as well, Luca Della Torre, who's someone who's familiar with Mikey Varas, but also the city of San Diego native in the debut season for San Diego. So I think he's going to be a huge fan favorite as well. So I'm really excited for that. But also Manu Dua, our first pick of the MLS draft, coming from Santa Barbara. So I'm really excited to see him because looking at footage, he looks like a promising player. And I mean, if this Right to Dream style kind of, elevates players at that young level, then I think we can see someone really special, Manu Dua. He kind of says that he says his idol is Sergio Busquets. And I feel like if you have an idol like Sergio Busquets, then I feel like your football IQ should be on, the higher level of things. So, I mean, I feel like with the footage, you kind of see and kind of the context you take, I think Manu Dua for me is one of the players to kind of look out for in the midfield as well. And then, other DPs in Anders Dreyer, he had 19 goals and 9 assists in 37 games for Anderlecht last season, which is great. And Anderlecht was playing in all sorts of UEFA competitions, Conference League, obviously in their respective leagues as well. So I think Dreyer also is a huge, massive threat going forward for San Diego. And you've seen with the Western Conference how stacked it's been getting. Just recently today announced Chicho Arango going to FC Dallas, I believe, right? Chicho Arango or
No,
Lucho Acosta?
Lucho Acosta, yeah.
That's right. Sorry. So, and then on top of that, you got San Jose doing their thing up there, getting, their pieces of the puzzle. LA Galaxy, MLS champs, right? So the West is extremely stacked this year. So I think that's kind of, one of the concerns, I have going into this season where it's like, how do we kind of fit into this conversation in terms of competitiveness? But, you just look at the squad and I feel like we have a mix of great experience and quality as well. So I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing how this squad can play, once, everything is gelling and molding. So for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I look at this and we talk about this a lot when expansion teams come around because we started doing this when, what was it? We started 2020. So it was Nashville and Miami. And the way that we always refer to this sort of stuff is how are you building your roster? You're building your roster like at that time it was Atlanta versus Minnesota, right? Atlanta, young South American designated players who are going out to be, or Minnesota, who were MLS vets, USL guys, people who are kind of like in their retirement, mode. And you saw how that shifted, right? Atlanta goes on and is great. Minnesota takes 5 years before they get to be half decent, right? Then we transition and we go into guys like St. Louis. Now, St. Louis kind of broke the mold a little bit last year where they went more European based, but also more in their prime based, right? You saw guys like João Klaus, you saw guys like Edward Leuven, you saw these players who you didn't know very much of, but you knew that they played at a high level. They're still in their prime. They can give you 5, 6 years, and they built around them the way that they should. And that's the vibe I'm getting from this San Diego is it's very much the St. Louis approach, right? So you're looking at guys like Marcus Ingvarsson, who at 29 years old is coming on over at Andres Dreyer, who you just mentioned, Shoki Lozano, like you just mentioned, Luca De La Torre, all these guys. There's two players over the age of 30 on this roster, and there are only 3 or 4 that are under the age of like 23, give or take. Like they're all in their prime there, which is a really promising build because you are going to be able to not only put them out there and trust them based off of just their pure experience and their maturity to understand systems and things like that, but you're also going to be able to sit down and say, you know what, we're going to keep you for a little bit. And we're not going to have to worry about you retiring next year. Or we're going to be able to flip you on and say, okay, you're 22 now. Give us 2 years of this level play. And now we get to move you on for a little bit of profit and we reinvest. Right. So I really like this roster build in terms of not only what they're going to do on the field, like starting next week, which is insane to think about, but
Right.
also for the future 2, 3 years of what this future can look like, right? And I think there are still some weak points, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. But I do want to get your thoughts. I guess your most favorite addition so far. Like, who are you just so hyped over the moon that they brought in?
Well, I mean, obviously Chucky Lozano. Like, it's if you're gonna say the most hyped, it's obviously him. Because I'm really excited to see him ball. And honestly, you know, a little part of me hopes he comes like Carlos Vela level. You know, obviously it's weird to compare both of them, but I really do hope he shines as much. You know, I think he's a great player. I don't know if he's going to be one that scores a lot, but again, MLS is different. So who knows if he's going to be able to come in. He actually had an assist over this weekend when they were doing the Coachella Valley. Was it preseason? Yeah, preseason games.
Yep.
He had an assist, you know, so it's pretty nice. It's good to see him kind of in there, and hopefully he's like a good captain in there, you know, a good voice for the players. And honestly, like what we've seen is like he's kind of adjusting to San Diego a lot. My friend actually got to meet him the other day. He was at the mall that he works at, and he was just talking to him, and it just seems like he's really excited to be part of this family and this group, and really sees the vision of what is coming. And when they did his his showing for the first time, like presented to him, like so many fans came out, and you could just see it in his face, like the love that he was receiving. And he kind of like took it upon himself at that moment, saying, this club is built around me. Like I have to come here. Like it was just a moment in his face, and his family was just like, wow, this is what I've wanted for all my life, you know? And I'm really excited to see that.
Yeah, and I think a player for me that I'm really excited to see is probably Luca De La Torre, just because I feel like he's one of the more higher end profile names that we've brought. Obviously, you know, Carlos was talking about Chucky, and you know, it's clear that Chucky's level is very high compared to the rest of the squad, just based off of, you know, where he was playing. I mean, like I was mentioning earlier, playing in Serie A at a high level with that Napoli team. Spalletti had those guys running, obviously with PSV as well. So Chucky has that kind of element to him. So Luca De La Torre, I feel like kind of fits in that same mold where his quality is also just as high that I think Chucky's is as well. I mean, playing in La Liga is one of the most physical leagues that you can play in, right? You just look at teams in La Liga, Getafe and Valencia, you know, those are tough teams to play against, you know, very physical teams. So, and I feel like Luca De La Torre, I think, will adjust quite nicely in MLS. And yes, he is on loan. I think that's kind of the only caveat I have with the De La Torre move. But the truth of the matter is this: you have a very high-end profile in Luca De La Torre, playing high-level matches and playing at a top level for San Diego in your first ever season. So I think that's huge going into the first season, having De La Torre. Obviously, I think also having a big message to prove as well. He wants to get on that U.S. men's national team roster in the World Cup, right, on home soil. So I think he himself is going to have a big season as well to try to prove Mauricio Pochettino that, you know, he should be amongst those names in the midfield, right? Your Yunus Musas, your McKennies, you know, someone that you can rely on to be in that U.S. men's national team roster midfield. So I think Luca De La Torre is one of the players that I think I'm really excited for, just on the sole fact of what kind of qualities he can bring out.
just to add like one more, I think we haven't really talked about him, but Tomas Angel, I think coming from LAFC and just what they've built and everything, could be a promising striker, and hopefully under Mikey Varas he shows up and is there.
I think with Thomas Angal, I think it's going to be really tough for him to get games, but because I think our main number 9 going forward, and even though he's number 7, I think, is going to be Marcus Ingvartsen. I think he's going to be the guy in the forefront, to be that reference point in the attack, because, I think this huge push on this right to dream style is something that I think we're really trying to get, with these players on the same page. And I feel like Marcus Ingvartsen knows this system probably better than a lot of these players being at FC Nordjylland. Right. So, having that, same kind of, environment and kind of, okay, he already knows what runs to make and, so on and so forth. I think Marcus Ingvartsen is going to be that reference point, that starting number 9 for us. So it's going to be tough for Thomas Angal to kind of get in that starting lineup, but I think what Coach Varas has instilled in this team is competitiveness. To, no one's for sure a starter. You have to kind of earn your spot. And of course, you have, I think, your obvious names that are going to be on the starting sheet, your first names on the team sheet being Chucky, De La Torre, and so on and so forth. But I don't think, the positions that have depth in them, I don't think are, solid in terms of what we think who's going to start for sure. So I think Angal has a lot to prove as well, but I think embracing that competitiveness is also important as well in the squad.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, and I will pick obviously the last of the 3 big ones here, and I will go and or actually the 4 big ones, and I'll talk a little bit about Andres Dreyer here, because a player in that position with the stats that he puts up, like I'm out here looking at, and it's from a similar league, right? Anderlecht in Belgium. What was he was like 14 and 5 or something like that. He put up something around those numbers.
So total in 37 games last season, 19 goals, 9 assists. So pretty good output.
So it just for comparison, right? In the 2022-2023 season for there's Genk. Joseph Paidsil, one of the most prolific attackers in this league last year, with a lot of help around him, of course, put up 14 and 14. So you're looking at a player who had a similar output as a guy like Joseph Paidsil, who tore this league to shreds. I mean, just one of those guys you're like, how in the heck are we going to stop him? And the only reason he didn't put up numbers like he did in Belgium, like he did here, was because he had to play as a number 9 for a quarter of the season when Jovic got hurt. Like, if he just stayed in his position and played where he was, he tears this league up and with probably similar numbers, if not better, right? So you're looking at a guy who puts similar output in the same league, now coming in with what I would argue is similar creative players, right? Is Luca De La Torre on the same level as Ricky Puig? Arguable, probably not, right? But Ingvartsen and Jovic, comparable, right? Chucky Lozano versus Gabriel Peck, comparable, right? So you're looking at a guy who's now going to fit into the system like Joseph Paintsel did that. What's Andres Dreyer going to do, right? Very, very exciting to see something like that for sure. So the one thing I did want to ask, though, because I think it's easy to name these guys are the big, look, we spent $5 million on this guy. We spent $7 million. Sure, they're going to be big, right? Who's a player that you guys are going to keep an eye on? And you kind of were hinting at it with Thomas Angel a little bit, but who's somebody that you're keeping an eye on that you're like, ooh, this guy might do something special this year, isn't one of the bigger names?
Yeah, so personally for me, number 1 is Thomas Angel, but I think we both have the same vision on the other one, so I'll let him take it on me.
Yeah, so I kind of have 2 names that come to mind, and one that I mentioned earlier was Manu Dua. Being our first pick in the MLS draft, I think he has huge potential to be someone to kind of be a main staple in our midfield, and I really hope that he can get those opportunities to shine and really show his quality, because he makes those deep passes from the midfield, and he has great dribbling qualities. He's really strong. He's big. So I'm really hoping that Manu Dua can really make a name for himself this season and at least get those chances to kind of show his qualities on the ball. But also, I think a name that I think I'm really excited for is Alex Mighton, coming from Nottingham Forest. I think he's dynamic winger. He's direct. And I think that's something that this right to dream style kind of capitalizes on, is players that are like that, who like that style of play, being direct, taking your defender one-on-one, and, being that outlet that players can kind of look to. Okay, we're going to give Alex Mighton the ball. He's going to create something out of nothing. And I think he has those qualities. He's fast, he's quick on the dribble and everything like that. So I think Alex Mayen, didn't get a lot of time in the Premier League with Nottingham Forest, but having the exposure to that sort of talent level, I think is huge. And if San Diego can kind of catch that lightning in a bottle with Alex Mayen, then I think, you got a really special player on your hands. And I think that one's someone that a lot of San Diego FC fans are really excited for. And, like I said, with that whole competitiveness in the squad, he's competing with a spot with Chucky Lozano, and that's a name that's, going to be really hard to kind of push off the pedestal. But, I'm sure, when you go away to Sporting Kansas City or something like that, or, when you kind of play like those lower table teams, I think Alex Mayen is going to get those shots to kind of show what he can do. So I'm really excited to see what Alex Mayen can do in a San Diego FC shirt.
Right. And what I think, what he was mentioning, what I love about having a new team is that everybody is competing for their spot. There's nobody on paper right now that says, obviously you got your name, Chucky Lozano and all these other ones, but we're ready to come out. And so if anybody's performing to the level, everybody's hungry. So I'm really excited. Whoever's going to fit the bill is going to, for sure, with what Mikey Varas is saying, is going to come and play.
Yeah, yeah, and I've also got I've got a lot of names because it's a brand new team, of course. But two that kind of hop out to me is firstly Jasper Loffelson is somebody that I have loved since he was drafted out. Drafted to RSL, then moved to Colorado. Because he's so flexible, right? He's a central midfielder by trade. He's been used as a right wing back before. He's been used as a pure right back before. He's got such flexibility, which is going to allow Mikey Varas to try a lot of different things with confidence, which is something that not a lot of expansion teams can say they can do. And I think he's going to be a key piece, not necessarily as a 34 game starter who's going to give you, 3,200 minutes this year, but what he can do is allow you to be flexible enough to say, okay, this isn't working. I'm going to plug Jasper Loffelson in here on a, 60th minute sub, and we're going to change our tactic. We're going to go for it. Right. So I think that's going to be really, really interesting to see. And the other one is Pablo Cisnega. So he is the goalkeeper who was in LAFC his first time I saw him. And I was like, baller. Dude's a baller. He can play. He's got all the intangibles. And at that point, he was like 24. And then they were like, not sure, not going to bring him back. He bounced around a couple teams as a number 2 for a while, and he never really got that chance to come back and be a part of it. I think he was in Charlotte. Was he at Charlotte after that? Yeah, he was. He went to Charlotte. Look at me. I know ball. Awesome. So he bounced around a little bit. Yeah, it bounced around a little bit, ended up in USL, and I was like, man, how did this guy not get a chance? Because I thought he was great at LAFC. I really liked what he had, and I'm excited because I'm looking at the goalkeeper spot is the only place where I'm like, they kind of could have done a little bit better there. But I do think that Cisniega can be somebody like a Tyler Miller was for LAFC back when he was pulled from Seattle, right? Nobody knew who he was. He was number 2 for a long time. And then out he comes into LAFC, and he got himself in the national team when he was at LAFC, which was really, really impressive for a guy who not many people knew at age 24. So I think Cisniega can follow that path, and I'm really interested to see how he does in that role, because I like I said, I've been on his hype train since I watched him play in LAFC, and now I need him to prove me right.
Yeah, and just touching upon Lawfulson, I think he's a great utility player. I mean, he can play at right back. Unfortunately, he did get injured, so that's why we didn't see him in the preseason game versus NYCFC. So we needed a makeshift right back. So Alvarado, I think on like the game day notice had to play right back. So I'm really excited to see what Lawfulson can bring, because he is that inverted fullback. He can play midfield and kind of, give you that outlet to say, okay, like how you were saying, we want to kind of, change something in game tactically. Boom, let's make that change in Lawfulson and try to, shake the game up a little bit. So being an inverted fullback and kind of, using that to San Diego FC's advantage is super crucial. And I mean, like you said, having experience in MLS as well is super crucial. And I mean, we got him in the super draft, which I think is super great as well. So we didn't have to sacrifice a lot for Lawfulson. And I mean, you get a great player with great qualities and experience as well. I think it's a win-win for sure.
Yeah. Well, we've talked a lot, guys. We talked a lot about the coach. We talked a lot about the roster. We talked a lot about the opponents. We talked a lot about a lot. Now it's time to wrap it all up. I want you to give me your predicted finish for San Diego this year, and I also want you to tell me what you would consider a successful year if it doesn't line up with your predicted finish?
We're either in playoffs or we get close. I think with what we're doing and what the vision is, I think we can get there. It's hard to say because it's a brand new team, a brand new system. It's nothing new, and again, all that we're hoping for is that the vision succeeds. But if everything works, if all of the pillars hit, then I think we can make it to the playoffs. Hopefully, we make it and we win the whole season. But at the end of the day, I think with this long season, I think we can make it at least to the playoffs. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, like Carlos was saying, it's like, winning obviously in the first season would be insane, right? I think first ever major sports championship for San Diego City. And if it's in your debut season, that's in the history books for sure. So I think San Diego would be super grateful for that. But, it's proven to be hard for an expansion team. Only Atlanta United has done that, I believe. So that's something that's very hard to do. But for my predictions, I'm going to go kind of similarly for Carlos. I'm going to shoot for that kind of 8th, 9th place spot, kind of get that wild card playoff spot. But to be honest, I think that to get far into the playoffs, I think that requires experience to play in those high level matches. And I mean, me and Carlos know it best when playing indoor.
Yeah, no,
you need that experience to go further. We were playing together for 4 or 5 years and we couldn't even we got to the final, but to kind of win it and to kind of, get into that mindset of like winning and kind of playing those, tough, gritty matches. It's tough. And I feel like, San Diego FC doesn't really have that. Obviously, you got guys who might help, right? You got Anibal Godoy, who is super good. He has loads of MLS experience. Definitely one of the veterans in the squad for sure. But I'm going to shoot for that kind of 8th, 9th place spot, getting that wild card. But I think we're going to bounce out early, to be honest, because it comes down to experience at the end of the day. And I think that is something that San Diego FC doesn't have yet. I think, it's a team that's new. They kind of have to learn each other's qualities. They have to learn how each other play, right? If so-and-so likes to, go on the wing, there's this nice quote that Dimitar Berbatov from Manchester United was talking about. And he's talking about how crucial it is for teams to kind of be on the same page. He said, when I would pass the ball to Nani, right, I knew Nani would go on the wing. He would do all his skills and everything like that and attract attention, right? Meanwhile, Berbatov would just go in the box and, no one would mark him and boom, Berbatov is there. Nani passes, goal. And you saw how influential that Manchester United team was in those early stages in the Premier League. So I think it goes to show that if San Diego FC can have all their guys on the same page, have that chemistry with each other in the first season, I think, we can start talking about, having deeper runs in the playoffs later on. But I'm going to go with like an 8th, 9th place finish, getting that wild card spot, but bouncing out early in the playoffs.
And your least acceptable? Were your least acceptable? Like, where would you say, like,
yeah, what's success for you? Like what and it doesn't success also doesn't need to be a finish. Like what would we see on the field where it's like, okay, we didn't get the finishes or the results we wanted, but I would say that was a good result for the year.
I would say the thing that I want to look forward to as a fan is consistency.
Right.
I just want to see if this right to dream style of play is something that we can go with, moving forward. I think if that's something that is in the interest of San Diego FC, and if obviously all things line up perfectly, then this is going to be something that's going to be really interesting. So I just want to see consistency in terms of the style of play. And obviously if things don't work out, making those proper tactical adjustments to fix the problems and the issues, right? So that's kind of my whole thing. So that's kind of what success looks like in the first season, is kind of seeing what we have right in front of us. And I guess kind of just adjusting for the next season. I know, this season haven't even started. I'm talking about making adjustments for next season, but this is kind of the demo of what we can see for San Diego FC going forward in the future. So if we can just have consistency at most and kind of get those easy wins at home, right, against, those lower table teams, games that we should be winning, right? I think that's something that I think I want to see and view as success in the first season.
Yeah, and I think another thing is buying into Right to Dream. Was that true or not? Like, is there success there? And if there, like, I think that would be the most disappointing thing if we were to see no success with the Right to Dream. because we have bought into this vision, and that is what I feel like is going to carry San Diego FC for a really long time. And if you can see right off the bat that the right to dream is not the way to go, it would just be sad, because now we're doing a whole rebrand and we haven't even started. So it's just like there's a lot of pressure on the right to dream. And yeah, if we don't make it, like, we're gonna have to do a whole 180, and that's just gonna be exhausting and just so much to restart. So if there's no success in right to dream, I think we failed completely, and I think there can't be an exception on that. And then last is, I want to see passion. I want to see what Mikey Varas has consistently told the fans, is that these players are going to be playing for you and for the city, and really bringing the culture of San Diego to the team. And if they can buy that in, then that'd be the most important part, because the Padres have done it successfully. The Chargers, when they were here, they did it successfully. So San Diego FC needs to be a big name, and people need to come in and flock to those games just as much as the other things. And I don't want it to be left aside. And if we're able to do that, then I will be excited into the next season, because I know the fans are buying in, everybody's buying in. And I think those would be real indicators of success and longevity with San Diego FC going forward.
Yeah, and I think you guys hit it nail on the head, right? We've seen expansion sides who come in with an identity and abandon it right off the bat. And I think of Charlotte as the most recent example, right? They hire in Miguel Angel Ramirez, and they pin him in with all of these DPs, and they're like, yeah, it's gonna be the way we go. Ramirez is gone halfway through the year. 2 of their 3 DPs are gone at the end of the year. They blow it up and they start over again. They waste an entire year, right? So for me, I think success, if it's not in terms of a finish or a place, is a commitment to an identity, right? Can you,
Right.
like I said, you mentioned right to dream as being a mindset, but this identity of, like, can you commit to it, whether it's successful or not successful, but commit to it for longer than just a flash in the pan, if you will, right? Can you say this is going to be the way we're going to do it, and that's how you get other people to buy into it, right? Because if you're like, oh, this is where we're going to do it, and then you pivot, and you're like, oh, maybe not. Well, the next thing you're going to go to, how do they know you're not going to just pivot and go to something else, right? So stick with it, really, really go into it, and make it who you are, right? I think that would be, success off of the pitch, right? And then for me, I just went kind of through my Western Conference previews, and we do a prediction at the end of every one, and I've got like 3, 4 teams that I think are bottom 4 teams already. So I don't think it's crazy to think San Diego to be in the 5 to 9 range, right? I don't know their top 4 team.
Right.
I don't think they're pulling a St. Louis and topping the
I
West
agree.
and blowing everybody out of the water. I think that's audacious, but I
Right.
do like the idea that they could be a number 5 or 6 seed in this Western Conference, because it's so tight, and it's just a couple of points that are going to separate, in my opinion, 5 through 9 through 10 through 11 through 12. And I think you have the
Right.
quality in the front line there with Chucky Lozano, with Ingvartsen, with Dreyer, with these Luca De La Torre, with this front 4 that's like, they have the quality where when things get tough and you need a point or 3 points, you need somebody to change the game, you've got the players to do that. So I do think that
Right.
I don't think it's crazy to think that they could be a 5, 6, 7 seed, miss the play-in game completely, and then travel for the play-in game. I don't think that's insane.
Yeah, definitely. I think if that's something that I think a lot of the fans want, is this team to just be competitive. And like, to the point what Carlos was saying is, like, if you can get the fans to be on your side, then, I mean, we all know in football that the fans are the 12th man, right? So if you can have the fans on your side from match day 1 and going into that home game versus St. Louis, you got 2 tough back-to-back games, right? LA Galaxy away from home match day 1, and then you go match day 2, St. Louis at home. So that's going to be something that's going to be really interesting, because that's going to really test our qualities as a club. So if you can have the fan base in San Diego, on your side from, those early days, then I think it'll make, home games a lot easier, because then it's like, okay, oh man, we got to go play San Diego, tough environment. It's like a cauldron in there, right? So if you can have San Diego on your side and, backing from, those early days, then that's really good. And I mean, you've seen how San Diego treats our legends, right? I mean, countless Chargers legends, LT, these guys are like worship down here. Tony Gwynn for the Padres. So it's like, we know how to treat our legends down here. So it's like, if you can really make a statement in your first season in San Diego, is it crazy to say we're going to have a Chucky statue in Snapdragon Stadium? I don't think so. I don't think so.
I mean, calling Daniel Tomlinson a Chargers legend instead of a Jets legend is kind of crazy, but that's just me. Anyways, hey guys, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Thank you so much for being here, guys. This was really, really insightful. I love the
Yeah.
conversation that we had, and I thought it really, for our listeners who might not have known a lot about San Diego, I think it opened their eyes to a lot of what they can expect in the West this year. I want to give you guys a little bit of time to tell people who you are, where to find you, and what you do.
Yeah, so we're the SDFC Bros pretty much. And first of all, thank you for having us too.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it just to get ourselves out there and stuff. But we are the SDFC Bros. And so what we really want to do is be a voice for the fans as much as possible, through the good, through the bad. We do a lot where we're going to be insightful and let you guys know like what's going on, transfer news, games, game analysis, everything. But first and foremost, our goal is to be the voice for the fans and let the team know and what the fans are feeling. And we're going to be doing videos, we're going to be doing trivia games, everything, vlogs of the game. And we just want to show what the real culture of San Diego is and keep growing from there. And like something that we kind of tie it close to is we really want to do like an Arsenal TV where people can come in and just say whatever they want to say and feel it. And we want to be the home for you guys to come and look at that.
Yeah. Any links you want to plug, where to find you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So just we have right now on Instagram, just follow us at SDFC Bros. Simple as that. No, nothing, just SDFC Bros. And then on Instagram or on YouTube, once we start posting on there, you'll see post game analysis, you'll see match day vlogs, you'll see everything and anything San Diego FC. And we're the best outlet for San Diego FC news, in my opinion. I think we're a team, right? It's me and Carlos, and then our producer Jasmine, who goes on location with us, and she's great. So it's us three. We're the platform to give fans a voice, and I think fans, football without fans is nothing. So I think that is something that we're really trying to emphasize here at SDFC Bros. So yeah, follow us on Instagram at SDFC Bros, and we're your guys for San Diego FC.
There you go. Hey, and we say it all the time, right? For our new listeners who are discovering this, it's the independent coverage that makes the league what it is, right? The league is, and we can have a whole nother conversation about the league cutting their own conversations and podcasts and all that sort of stuff. But we are what keeps it going on. So go show the love, go give them the support, and take in some more San Diego news, because that's what this is all about. They're brand new and they need, they are trying to share as much as they can. So go soak it up. Go be a sponge, right? That's what we do here. So if you're new here and this is your first time seeing us, we are the designated players. I say we as Connor is somewhere in this direction, my co-host who's not here today. We are doing 30 of these with 30 different, I believe you are 25. So we got 5 more after this and 24 more before. So if you want to see any other team, give us a follow. And then throughout the season, we'll do MLS news as it breaks and MLS history. So if you are a San Diego fan joining for the first time and you have no idea what's going on about this league, we have 500 now individual stories from fans across the league and their favorite moments from each and every year. So we started on the first day of 1996, and we're all the way up to like 2010 now, give or take. And all the stories that we tell are fan selected. So if you are interested in what really made fans, we go through and we tell all those stories, and go give it a listen and kind of learn about how we got to where we are. That's kind of what we do. So, guys, thanks again for being here. We really enjoyed having you. My friends who are listening, thank you for listening to us, and we will see you all next time on the next episode of the Designated Players and MLS Podcast. See ya.
Sure. Ciao, ragazzi.